period, you ask the following question: is there a connection between the subsequent escalation of the war in Vietnam and the murder of Kennedy in November '63? The Pentagon Papers established, without any question, that President Kennedy was intending to get out of Vietnam. Now, we can disagree on whether he would have filed suit, but he was on record. He was going to do that. He was pulling out. The problem was really how to disguise a defeat, how to sell the country the notion we just weren't going to stand and fight there. He didn't think the game was worth a candle, apparently. Whereas the subsequent administration, they had a different problem, how to disguise an escalation. Right. And according to the Pentagon Papers, that policy was changed secretly. We started hitting the north with PT boats and something called Op Plan 34A. The details are really not critical. The point is that within a year of the assassination, the policy was definitely in a different direction. And after the inauguration of Johnson, we had a complete escalation of the war, the overt involvement of the U.S. military, landing of troops, etc., and 500,000 men in the fourth largest war in history.
President Eisenhower warned the nation of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. A permanent war economy was their business, with billions at stake.
How we can intensify the struggle, how we can bring Americans out of there. Now, that is our object, bring Americans home.
The way that struck people who were leaning toward the profits and the benefits of the Vietnam War was really unimaginable. You can't imagine. So a power elite coalesces. They don't have to vote. And among them, they say, you know, that guy's going to vote.
Is there any speed up in the withdrawal from Vietnam?
Well, you know, when Secretary McNamara and General Taylor came back, they announced that we would expect to withdraw 1,000 men from South Vietnam before the end of the year.
In September of 1961, our State Department published the text of its proposal for disarmament as presented before the United Nations General Assembly. Entitled Freedom from War, the United States Program for General and Complete Disarmament, this proposal set down 4 objectives. Without mincing words, it advocated first that all nations, including the United States, disband their national and armed forces except for what would be earmarked for the United Nations Peace Force. Second, that all nations, including the United States, eliminate their nuclear weapons and missiles other than those required for a United Nations Peace Force. Third, that all nations, including the United States, acknowledge the United Nations authority to supervise and direct this transfer of military power. And four, that all nations, including the United States, carry out this transfer to a point where no state would have the military power to challenge the progressively strengthened United Nations Peace Force.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
3 communist PT boats attacked an American destroyer off the coast of Vietnam yesterday, and today President Johnson's response was hard and tough.
To any armed attack upon our forces, we shall reply. To any in Southeast Asia who ask our help in defending their freedom, we shall give it.
The New World Money Order war machine prepared us for accepting a new economic order war machine industrial military complex by setting up a depression. People were desperate during that time. And to have a war machine to get going where the masses were put to work again, whereas they were unemployed during the Great Depression, was something that the masses would accept. Thus, World War II got the U.S. working again for a cause that was propagandized as being patriotic, because we were fighting against those evil Nazis who had been bankrolled by Wall Street banksters.
According to Billy Celestes, there were 8 murders perpetrated on the part of Lyndon Johnson, and the 8th name listed is the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy.
In late summer 1963, one of his long-term partners in crime was about to be exposed for corruption by a Senate investigation.
Bobby Baker was the secretary to the Senate majority. Basically, he was the secretary for the Senate, and he was one of Lyndon Johnson's closest associates. And everything that Lyndon Johnson wanted to perpetrate, he had Bobby's help. Essentially, if somebody wanted to get a military contract and they wanted influence of Lyndon Johnson to help them, they had to pay off Bobby Baker, who would then pay off Lyndon Johnson. It's the world of bribes. So as a result of all this, Bobby Baker was in big trouble. And with a little bit of inspiration on the part of the Kennedys, if they could get Bobby Baker to talk, Lyndon was all done. Lyndon Baines Johnson, if Robert Kennedy had his way, would not only not be on the 1964 ticket as the vice presidential candidate, but he would go to jail.
He was committed to pull out of Vietnam. By October, he had signed a document, an SAM 263, to that effect. 1,000 troops home by Christmas, and all personnel out of Vietnam by 1965. But that wasn't very good for the military-industrial complex. His abolishing the Central Intelligence Agency, pulling their teeth, holding them to task, back to why they were originally created by Truman. Their original mandate by law is only to coordinate intelligence, not to create the Bay of Pigs. NSAM 55 told the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that the CIA no longer can do that, and any military operation has to come directly from them to the president, period. That kind of a document really causes problems.
Oil millionaires and billionaires in Texas were petrified of one major factor that John F. Kennedy was considering, cutting the oil depletion allowance. And there was no way they were going to allow that. Essentially, they would save billions of dollars if it stays as it is. It was called a...
Backtracked the chain of command up through the Cordmeyer and laying the doings at the doorstep of LBJ. He, in my opinion, had an almost maniacal urge to become president. He regarded JFK as he was, in fact, an obstacle to achieving that.
I'm the only person in the background that knows the truth pertaining to everything relating to my testimony. The people that have so much to gain and have such a material motive for putting me in a position I'm in will never let the true facts come above board to the world. Now, these people are in very high positions, Jack? Yes.
That's where we're out of office now.
Proposed group that they're trying to put together on this study of your report.
Well, I haven't heard of that.
I want to get by just with your file and your report.
It'd be very, very bad to have a rash of investigations.
Well, the only way we can stop them is probably to appoint a high-level one to evaluate your report.
Yeah.
And to put somebody that's pretty good on it from